Alright, my wizards, sorry for the wait, but after all, it was a 2-minute and 8-second teaser. There was a lot to analyze. I know you were really looking forward to watching this video, so let's go. Music. I think it's funny that you guys ask me where the analysis is. Like, the teaser came out an hour ago and you're already asking, where's the analysis? I'm not a machine, I wish I was, because I'd like to release the analysis really fast. But right now, it's 11:52 p.m.
That was exactly when I finished the script, now that I've analyzed it.
But let's go. I don't want to stall too much. Let's get straight to the details I saw in the trailer, in the teaser, right? At the beginning, we already have a scene with Vernon sitting there, reading a newspaper. The detail that already stands out right at the beginning is that the Dursleys' house is really set in the 90s, right? The series wants to make it very clear that the story takes place in this period. It's a tacky house. It's a tacky house because they're tacky, but it's a house that's really styled in the 90s. There on the side, up top, there's a picture that's kind of hard to see, but it looks like it's a photo of Dudley as a baby. And we know, right, that the Dursleys' house is full of photos of Dudley as a baby, and there isn't a single photo of Harry.
In the book, it said it seemed there was no other boy in the house, since there wasn't a single photo of him, right? And there are some photos there on the wall, on the left side, that seem to be family photos.
It looks like a photo of Dudley as a baby. This first one here anyway. They seem to be photos like that. And then, Vernon is there reading the newspaper in the kitchen, and notice an important detail. This is Dudley's birthday. It's the day they go to the zoo, because Vernon is wearing the exact same clothes he was wearing in those leaked scene materials. I think that was the first scene leak there was. He was wearing those clothes, that polo shirt with red and white details. So that's the day, the fateful day, when the glass disappears, the snake escapes, and causes a big commotion at the zoo on Dudley's birthday. And then, the teaser starts with a really strong line from Petunia, right? She says, I told you, you're a normal boy. There's nothing special about you. There's nothing special about you. It's a really harsh line, which is paired with Harry being mistreated, right? That, for me, was already a really positive point in the teaser. Like, showing Harry being mistreated to show what the Dursleys are like. They're real tormentors, you know? So, I liked seeing that they're sticking with that. And then, it's Petunia's voice that's speaking. But the one who throws Harry into the cupboard is Vernon, right? Because it's probably after the zoo incident here. And then, when he throws him into the cupboard, there are a few details I wanted to mention, man. First, the cupboard is really... It makes the cupboard in the movie look like a luxury mansion. The cupboard from Harry's movie, right?
Man, it was cute there, painted. It even had a little bed. This one here is one of those thin, cheap mattresses that everyone has slept on at least once in their life.
Sometimes you'd visit a relative and find only an old, cheap mattress tied with string to sleep on. It was actually more comfortable to just sleep on the floor. So, one of these, poor Harry, and there are a bunch of clippings glued there, like pages and stuff. Notice something very important. Right when the door is still open, and when they throw him in there. There's a drawing here of a flying motorcycle. Man, look at this, a drawing of a flying motorcycle. And Harry has a dream about the flying motorcycle, right? He even mentions it while they're going to the zoo. And Vernon gets furious, right? Yelling that flying motorcycles don't exist. Motorcycles don't fly, right? And then Harry, poor thing, says, I know, it was just a dream. Anyway, there's that motorcycle there. He dreams about the flying motorcycle. He dreams about the green flash. So it's cool that there's that drawing of the motorcycle. Made by Harry. Harry drew something he dreamed about. Totally normal. What kid doesn't do that? And then there are several things in the closet. There's a yellow hanger. And that yellow hanger could very well be the hanger that Harry got on his 10th birthday. Because if you pick up the book, you'll see Harry saying that on his 10th birthday, he got a hanger and a pair of old socks from his uncle. You can see that next to what looks like a white coffee thermos with some plaid details. There's some car wax for using on cars.
From the brand Turtle Wax, which is a pretty famous brand in the United Kingdom.
In other words, that's not just Harry's room. The Dursleys didn't care if he was sleeping surrounded by a bunch of chemicals. You can also see headphones there. Very typical of the 90s. So it's very clear that it's set in the 90s. I don't know if those headphones work, right? Poor Harry. You can also see a handheld vacuum cleaner, those portable ones. also typical of the 90s, because, once again, the series wants to clearly show us it's set in this period.
There, on the left side, there's the tie he wears at the Muggle school St. Gregory, which appears in scenes later on in the teaser. And there's also a magazine called Eagle.
Eagle is a comic magazine, a very popular comic magazine that's been published since the 1950s. Harry probably picked that up there, maybe left by Dudley or found it somewhere, since the Dursleys never gave him anything, right? It looks like there also in the corner there are some comic book stuff, and in the back there are some magazines. Look, there's a penguin drawn up there. There's a dinosaur there, a dinosaur card. There's a checkered can, a book, and so on. But notice that in this other corner, on this side, on the left corner of the screen, there are 2 pages from a phone book stuck there. You can see that some of the names are crossed out on that list. This is most likely Harry looking for his relatives, trying to see if he had any family so he could get out of this cursed life with the Dursleys. Here is the list. It's on those 2 pieces of paper. Probably with the last name Potter, right? Because it's a very common name. Potter is a very common last name. Harry is a really common first name, and Potter is also a common last name. So he was probably looking for it there. That's probably what's happening in this scene. That's what I could see.
Well, you can see that the cupboard is really worn out. Really worn out. Like, the wall is just brick. There are wooden beams there. There's a wire hanging, like the wire from the lamp, the light fixture, hanging there.
Look, on the side, right there where Harry sleeps. You see it, poor guy. His cupboard is, like, wow, his cupboard is really worn out, isn't it? Then, right after Harry is thrown in there, he looks at the little window on the door. It's that famous scene, right? Where Walter says there's no such thing as magic and all that. And Harry gets really punished there. And man, one thing that broke my heart was Harry crying, right? Because every time, at least, it's inevitable. Right, guys? I'll end up comparing with the movies, since that's the media we have.
It's not a comparison to put down the movies or to take any credit away from them, but just a comparison because it's the media we have.
We don't see Harry crying, right? When he's punished, when he's mistreated, we don't see that. And I found it interesting that here Harry seems to be more sensitive and all, right? That's a good sign, because it can be explored more there. The character's storyline, their depth. Then, my friends, then we cut to a scene that filled my heart with joy. Harry running. Look, I'm happy. This beginning of the video is terrible. I'm happy because Harry is being mistreated. And now I'm happy that Harry is going to be bullied by his cousin. He's in the Muggle Elementary School, which he goes to before going to Hogwarts, which is a school. It's St. Gregory's school. And there, Harry wasn't picked for sports. Nobody wanted to be his friend, because nobody wanted to challenge Dudley and his gang there. You know, the bullies. So, Harry was very lonely at that school, and it shows Dudley and his friends, you know, holding him to beat him up and all that. Look at that, Dudley. This boy is really good as Dudley, okay? He's really good. He's really good. And then, Harry running, right? They catch him in the bathroom. Look, 2 big cowards hold him. Oh, next to Dudley. Look who's there. Pierre Polskis. This one, who's Dudley's best friend, who's in the zoo scene. Also remember the zoo scene came up. This boy, okay, he's Pierre Polskis, who's Dudley's best friend, who comes to the house. In fact, he's the one who tells Walter that it was Harry who was talking to the snake, because Walter hadn't even noticed that Harry had been talking to the snake. Did it have anything to do with the snake escaping? It's this big mouth here, from hell, who says, "Oh, Harry was talking to the snake, right, Harry?" And that's when things get tough for Harry. It's because of this fool here, these friends of Dudley, who are holding Harry back.
So it could be one of the friends we already know from the books, right?
Either Malcolm or Gordon or Dennis. One of those guys, at least 2 of them. It must be one of those 3. And then, well, they're here messing with Harry. Poor guy. Poor Harry. He's really suffering. And then, this other scene.
My friend is sadistic, but I'm happy. I'm happy.
Look at Petunia cutting his hair in the kitchen, right there. And look, she cuts it kind of violently, poor guy. Look at Harry's face. Look, there you go. You're nothing special. There's nothing special about you. But you can see the bitterness in her eyes, can't you? In her acting, she really conveyed the character's bitterness. At least, That's what I felt, man. This scene of Petunia cutting his hair and leaving him almost bald, with only the bangs to hide the scar. It's something that's in the book, and I was really hoping it would be in the series. So I'm really happy it's already in the teaser. Did you notice that the first scenes in the teaser, and I think they really got this right, are scenes that aren't in the movies? Scenes we haven't seen in the movies. That scene of Harry being chased at school, that scene of Harry getting his hair cut, those aren't in there, so it's already showing the difference, you know? And Petunia is cutting Harry's hair because he would go to the barber, come back, and it looked like he hadn't had a haircut. So they thought Harry wasn't getting his haircut properly and all that. And Petunia cuts it there, and she says, "Oh, then I'll cut this darn hair myself." So she cuts it, and then his hair grows back magically, right? And they punish him because he couldn't explain how. And they were blaming the boy, you know? And at that moment when Petunia is cutting Harry's hair, notice that what she says matches her actions. What is she doing there? She tells Harry that he wasn't special, that he was an absolutely normal boy, and that it was time for him to start acting like one. And while she's saying that he's a normal boy, imposing that on him, you can see that his scar is covered, Harry's scar is covered, and the scar is the most unusual thing about him, right? The book describes this. He seemed to be an absolutely normal boy, except for the scar on his forehead, which was the only thing Harry liked about himself. So, she's hiding the scar while saying that, right? She just leaves his bangs there, and visually, we don't see Harry's scar at this first moment. After that, Harry goes to get the mail, right? He comes back with his letter. You can see some pictures on the side. There's a mirror behind Harry, a picture of a flower next to the door, and wallpaper. Tacky. The Dursleys' house is really tacky, right? Because it really matches them. And here, on the side, there are some photos, right? Those are the photos we saw in the other scene, the ones I said were family photos. You really can't see it very well, but it looks like that's Harry's letter. Mr. Harry Potter, cupboard under the stairs, 4 Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey.
So at this moment, there's no secret, right? It's just saying what's happening. A new original HBO series appears there.
And then, man, look how cool this scene is. It's Harry and Hagrid on the subway, right? And then you can hear Harry's line there. I've always wanted to know more about my parents, and this part got me. Well, you saw my reaction there, right? At this part, I was already completely moved. And this line from Hagrid, your parents were funny, smart, they were kind, right? And they stood up for what they believed was right. And the way Hagrid speaks, I don't know if you noticed, but the way Hagrid talks comes across as really sweet to me. Right there, something really sweet, you know? You can see that Hagrid has a lot of affection for Harry, just in that part where he's talking to him there. That made me really happy, man, because it showed their great chemistry. And an interesting detail in this scene is that while Harry is asking Hagrid, saying that he wanted to know more about his parents, we get a lesson in semiotics, where he's looking at the window and he sees his reflection. And when he sees his reflection, everything is dark on the side, he has his reflection, and everything is dark in the window, right? This is telling us that it's how Harry sees himself, empty, not knowing anything about his past. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know what happened. He doesn't know anything. And then he's starting to discover. He's starting to learn things. He looks and sees himself like that. Empty. Dark. See? Just Hagrid when he's turned around here. Look, when it shows him from behind, he's moving his hands like this, right? Probably. Look, he's here. Look, with a needle in his hand. See? Look, he's knitting while he's talking. I don't know if you noticed. There's the tip of a needle in his hand. He's knitting. Because Hagrid really does knit at this moment in the book. When they're there in the subway, he pulls something out and starts knitting, right? And then, at that moment when they're talking about dragons, when Harry asks, "Oh, dragon gloves, anyway," right? So, at that moment when they're in the subway, when Hagrid is knitting, Nick Frost, the actor who plays Hagrid, said that he actually learned to knit for this scene. Very cool, right? He's there knitting and all. When he speaks, there's a strong focus on Harry's eyes, while Hagrid is talking about his mother, right? Like, he's talking about his parents. So, like, those big eyes there, right? Your mother's eyes, which is something we're going to hear a lot about, right? You have your mother's eyes, you look a lot like your father, but you have your mother's eyes. And then, one detail that also made me happy is Harry's glasses, right? The frame of Harry's glasses is tortoiseshell. It's a tortoiseshell frame. The pattern on it, that pattern here, really looks like a turtle shell design. And in the movies, It's not like that. But here, they kept that detail. I thought it was cool. And then they focus on the scar. Look, in the shape of a lightning bolt, which really looks like a real scar, right? It really looks like a scar. It's not all perfect, right? It's a lightning bolt-shaped scar. Very cool. And Harry puts his hand on his forehead there. Probably this moment of him putting his hand on his forehead doesn't match the dialogue that's in the teaser. It must be an overlapping dialogue or something like that, because obviously they don't put everything as it is in the actual series. They overlap, edit, anyway, to create the scene's climax.
Oh, another detail is that the guys, they're pretty much not paying attention to Hagrid here, right?
Man, Hagrid is a half-giant. He's really tall, and I noticed that people are ignoring him, right? They're not looking at him. Unless they were looking at him earlier and he said hi or asked what was going on. I don't know, but they're not looking. And I found that strange. And in this scene, the show gives us another clue. Look, we're set in the 90s because this lady here, in blue, next to the gentleman who's holding a pen, is holding a Walkman in her hand. The Walkman, this little yellow Walkman, was a real classic. Most likely it's a Sony Walkman, which was really popular at the time and is very typical of the 90s next. Hagrid and Harry leave the subway. They're going up the stairs from that scene that also got leaked, right? Where they were filming out on the street, and you can tell it's exactly where they filmed by the building's facade. Here, you can see it. And then, they're heading out in that direction. Probably to Charing Cross Road, which is where the entrance to the Leaky Cauldron and the entrance to Diagon Alley are, right? But in this part, man, the detail I wanted to mention is, look at how Hagrid gently pats Harry on the head. You can see how sweet he is. He has this tenderness with Harry that's already clear here, right from the start. That made me, man, really happy, you know? It made me really happy because I really want to see it. I want to see more exploration of Harry and the trio's relationship with Hagrid. It's such a beautiful bond and deserves more focus. And then, Hagrid, speaking in his sweet way, showing that affection to Harry, made me happy. Man, so the next scene cuts. Look how mischievous they are, huh? There's a dialogue like that. Ah, our next meeting will be at Hogwarts. And then, it cuts to a scene of Harry at King's Cross, looking kind of lost there, not knowing where to go and all. What was happening makes it seem like Hagrid took him there, right? But that's not it. They go back after Harry buys his things in Diagon Alley and all. They still go back. Harry still goes home, stays there for about a month probably. We're going to see him going back. Yes, because he and Hagrid filmed in a diner, eating after shopping in a diner. There was a leak about this, not of the scenes, but of the information.
So this is just a trick in the teaser to make it look like it's sequential, but it's not. And then he's kind of lost there, right? Because if you read the book, you'll remember that he has this issue, right? Like, I didn't even ask for more information, didn't clear up any doubts with Hagrid about this. It's platform 9 3/4. That platform doesn't even exist, and what if it's, I don't know, a prank or something like that?
Harry feels insecure, and then, when he gets to the platform, he's feeling kind of lost with the cart he's using to carry his trunk. There, his owl has a phrase from a car rental company, Hertz, and it says here, Hertz are driving people off the trains. The phrase is something like, Hertz is making people leave the trains. That was a campaign about car rentals. Because in the 90s, car rental companies wanted to position themselves in the market, saying that the car gave more freedom, more comfort, more control over the trip. It's interesting to see the setting here too, with the guy walking by in that sort of greenish jacket, water there, passing really close to Harry's cart. He's holding a newspaper in his hand, and the headline on the newspaper has the name Blue Peter. You can't read the full headline.
But Blue Peter is a British children's show, a very famous British children's TV program.
It's not just any children's show, it's the oldest children's show in the world. And man, look at the attention to detail from the production. They create newspapers with real things, you know, from the time period, and it's there. And these details always catch my attention. And then, we have a cut, and it already shows him with the cart there.
Look, Edwidge in the cage, there, calm, his big suitcase, the little backpack, and Harry. Let's go, man.
He picks up speed here to run to platform 9 3/4, because this is the moment when he already talked to Mrs. Weasley, and he's about to cross over to platform 9 3/4. And then, you can see back there, in the window, you can see the top, right there of the tower. the clock tower from St. Pancras Station, which is next to King's Cross Station. In reality, King's Cross has national trains, and St. Pancras is international. Trains go to other countries, right? So can you see that station? Do you remember in the movie? It's that place where the Ford Anglia goes up there. In the movie, it's in front of that tower, right there. Look, actually, I went there. I set foot on that platform. There, at that station. I went.
HBO took me there. It was amazing. HBO Max took me there. It was incredible. And then Harry hits the cart with that stick. And then, man, we switched to a really cool scene.
That scene broke me. Man. It broke me. Here we have Harry already inside the train, man. It's just like in the book. Exactly like in the book. Harry gets in, he walks through the train and everything. Then, Fred and George help him with his suitcase. Right, that's not shown here. And then he looks out the window and sees Mrs. Weasley saying goodbye to Ron, hugging him. He hadn't even talked to Ron or anything yet. And then he sees her hugging him. Man, it really hits you because, he had just recently found out the truth about his parents, that his parents were murdered. There was an attempt to kill him anyway, and that he's known in the wizarding world.
And then there's this part in the book where he's looking and he kind of tries to hide the fact that he doesn't have that man.
Harry, no, he doesn't remember what it's like to be hugged. He doesn't remember. The last time he was hugged, he was 1 year and 3 months old. It's cruel, man. It's cruel, but it's true. He was hugged when he was 1 year and 3 months old, which was when his parents died. After that, he wasn't hugged anymore. The Dursleys didn't hug him. Besides this scene having all this weight, right? It's very emotional. It has all this intensity. It also brings some really cool symbolism. You see that Harry is positioned in the dark part there, right? And Molly is hugging Ron in the bright part, full of love. And Harry never had that. I mean, he did when he was a baby, right? But anyway, it's been more than 10 years since his parents died. So he's in that dark part. There's this contrast, right? Of the place where he is. He's still lonely there. He doesn't know Ron. He hasn't become friends with Ron. So there he's a lonely person, right? He's a lonely person. So that's why he's in that dark, lonely part. There, while he looks out the window and sees Molly and Ron illuminated, bright, right, representing the light, the warmth of love, and so on. And you can also see at this moment in the reflection here, when Ginny appears, right? You can see that Molly is trying to clean the dirt off Ron's nose. There, in the reflection, you can see that. And they're already on platform 9 3/4 because of the mosaic and all. I know, since I've been on the sets too. You saw from the set visit that I went there with 28,000 max, so I know that mosaic is from the platform. And then, look at this reflection, man. Look at this reflection. What a wonderful thing. While Mrs. Weasley is there, this was, for me, one of the most beautiful scenes in the teaser. While Mrs. Weasley is there, saying bye to Ron. There's Ginny's reflection, Harry looking there, and Ginny's reflection. Man, that's not by chance, okay? It's not. You might think it's by chance, but it's not. It's not. Harry and Ginny, they're going to develop a relationship in the future, right? They're connected characters. So there, we already show Ginny's reflection with Harry looking.
It's something. A sign that this is going to be explored further, It's going to be explored further in some way. It's not just a reflection here. It was a very beautiful scene for me.
And then it comes in, based on the beloved books by J.K. Rowling, and moves on to the scene. There's a scene here, look, of the Hogwarts Express arriving. Ah, look, notice something, notice this. Right behind Mrs. Weasley, there's a sign there. Look, cafe, see? And then, back there, higher up, there's a banner that says Lost and Found, right? And there are 2 more as well. There's a family there hugging each other. He doesn't just see Mrs. Weasley. He sees another family there, hugging, the father, the mother, saying goodbye, anyway. And then, there's that Lost and Found back there, behind Mrs. Weasley, and a sign for a cafe, which really is there. I went there. To platform 9 3/4, I went to those places. Ah. A really cool detail is that the carts they use are actually carts that were used in the 90s there at King's Cross.
Man, really cool, really cool. Even with that, they were careful, with the setting of the place.
Anyway, then after the card, right, based on the beloved books by J.K. Rowling, there's a scene of the Express arriving at Hogsmeade Station, which is where the students get off when they come from London. And there's Hagrid there waiting, right, with his little lantern, for the first-year students. He's wearing a cap on his head, it seems. And then, right after that, He's taking the students through a little forest there, to go to the boats, to cross the lake, right, to get to Hogwarts. I actually thought that in this teaser, we were going to have the boat scene. I really thought so, but we didn't, no. Instead, we had things that weren't shown before.
Them walking through the little forest to get to the boats and Hagrid knocking on the door.
That's cool. It's a nice detail because that's exactly how it is in the book.
He arrives and he knocks on the big oak door. It even ends the chapter with him knocking on the big oak door.
And man, I thought it was amazing how the knocking was synchronized with the beat of the music that was playing there, you know? And then, guys, we get our first glimpse of Hogwarts, right? The first glimpse of Hogwarts. My friend, let me tell you something. I'm completely in love. I'm completely in love with this Hogwarts vibe, Hogwarts legacy. Look, if you just glance at it, you say, Hogwarts legacy. It doesn't look all that similar, but at the same time, it's not exactly the same. It's not like, wow, it's identical, but it gives off a Hogwarts legacy vibe, you know? And then, look, let's pay attention here. There are a lot of details in this scene. There are chandeliers with candles there. That's really cool. Chandeliers with candles. And then, here on the left side, there's a tree that's like half of it is on the wall, and there are more plants over there. That's an important detail. Because Hogwarts in the series will have a lot of Scotland's nature, it will have a lot of the fauna and flora of Scotland. You know? So Hogwarts is there, and nature is part of it. You get it? So look, we have a tree inside Hogwarts, man, like, and it's built into the wall, into the castle itself, you know? It's magical, man, it's really crazy. And then, the students are coming in here. This scene, obviously. It makes a slight reference to the scene when they're entering the Great Hall in the movie, right? But here, they're not entering the Great Hall. Here, they're entering a part that gives access to the Great Hall. The Great Hall. It's that door on the left, over there, where there are banners. Do you see there are banners there? On the left side, there are Slytherin and Ravenclaw banners. On the right side of the door, left side of the door, we have Hufflepuff and Gryffindor. They're hanging. You can't see Ravenclaw's because it's behind Slytherin, and Gryffindor's is also behind Hufflepuff. But you can see that they're there, you know? And then there's a big banner right in the middle, right in the middle, right in the middle. There's an amazing kind of walkway, by the way, and it says, "Welcome to Hogwarts, first years. Welcome to Hogwarts, first years." So there's this walkway there. And here on the right side, there's a little staircase that probably leads up to that walkway. There's a portrait there. Look, on the right side, you can't really see the portrait very well. It looks like a woman in the portrait, but you can't see it clearly. Some torches, right? With fire lighting the place. And then, up ahead, Minerva McGonagall is waiting. And then, there are the Hogwarts staircases. And the staircase really reminds me of Hogwarts Legacy. Like, the vibe is very much Hogwarts Legacy. For me.
Man, and Minerva is waiting for them up ahead. Look at that. And then we have a focus on Janet McTeer as Minerva McGonagall. And man, there are 3 things I want to comment about Minerva.
She was made to look a bit older, right? Obviously. She has gray hair and all that, right? The cat eye glasses, you know, because she turns into a cat. But not just that. Notice the button on Minerva's clothes, the color of the button. It has exactly the color and pattern of the fur of the cat she transforms into. Look at the detail, my friend. Look at the detail. Do you understand? Look at the detail. Not to mention the detail on the clothes, which carries a lot of elements. Minerva is Scottish, so just like Hogwarts, right? It's in the Scottish Highlands. So you can see that's really reflected in her. The culture, the traditional clothing there, right? The pattern of the traditional clothing on her outfit, that kind of plaid, you know, green, with those more reddish tones mixed in. But this detail here on the button, my friend, for me, it's just amazing. And you might think, no way, Kako, you're making this up, right? I'm not making it up, my friend. Do you know who told me this? Holly Weddington, the costume designer of the show. While I was there on the set visit, she was showing me, and then she showed the button here. Like, look, see this? I made this right here. Look, it's the same color as the cat that Minerva transforms into. Look at the detail. Look at the detail. That's why they win Oscars. That's why they win awards. That's why they win Emmys. You know, I want to see Holly Weddington winning an Emmy for the Harry Potter series because she deserves it. right now. Did you notice Minerva, while she's waiting for the students, that she's positioned exactly in a spot where, behind her, there are the stairs? Man, for me, that was a really beautiful tribute to Meg Smith, the legendary Meg Smith, the immortal Meg Smith.
Because she's waiting for the students, just like in the movie. She's waiting for the students, right?
Of course, this is based on the book, obviously, so it's going to be the same, but I think the aesthetics, the setup, they did it as a tribute. She's there, waiting, and then the stairs are behind her. Very similar to the movie, you know? Oh, another detail about Minerva, right? The actress, I even mentioned she made herself look older, right? Because the actress is actually blonde and her hair is kind of grayish. In the book, I remember her hair being described as black, and then they changed it, made it gray, okay? And then we cut to another scene. And who do we have? We have him! We have him! The great sorting hat of Hogwarts, my friends. And this sorting hat is black. It's black, my friends. And look, it's really worn out. You can see that the brim is all frayed. There are tears, there are patches. Where's the mouth?
It even looks like the sorting hat from the movies, this one, except it's a bit darker, and it has a detail that caught my attention.
It doesn't have a tip. It doesn't have a pointy tip like that. It's a flat tip. And then, it's sitting there on the little stool, right? Behind the hat, on both sides, you can see two people, likely professors, though they're out of focus. They're seated at what is probably the faculty table, since this is the selection moment. And then, Harry, we see a quick shot of him picking up the sorting hat, right? And then, there's the cut that shows Harry, Ron, and Hermione at Hogwarts. Man, Harry, Ron, Hermione at Hogwarts, in uniform. A little group over there on the side, a boy looking here. Look, I want to talk a bit about each of these things here. First, amazing setting. I've already said, Hogwarts looks wonderful. Behind Harry, there are two flags, two banners hanging, and these banners, they seem to be from Hogwarts, okay? Even though they're blue, they're not from Ravenclaw, no. I think they seem to have the Hogwarts crest, because they're blue and black. You know, or maybe it really is Ravenclaw and I'm just overthinking it, you know? It could be light blue, dark blue, anyway. And then we have this staircase that kind of meets like this, right? It goes down in a sort of round way and meets up. This staircase is beautiful, 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 really amazing, man. Such a vibe. Hogwarts legacy. And then, this moment here is probably where Harry is on his very first day of class. Because people are whispering there. You can see a boy walks by and looks at him and all that. It's something that makes him uncomfortable. Also, because, you know, he's a legend. Harry Potter is at Hogwarts and all that. So people are looking, they're whispering, they're in little groups. And now, about the cloak. Let's talk here about their outfits, right? The sweater? Well, this sweater had already appeared in the first photo of Dominique, in costume, right? For the costume test. It's a burgundy sweater. There's the red and gold stripe on the collar, the tie as well, which had already appeared and all. And the cool detail is Hermione's uniform. You can see that under the cloak, she's wearing a kind of dress. And this dress also really reflects Scottish culture.
Because it's checkered, it has little plaid details with the colors of traditional Scottish clothing.
And then, she's wearing a little headband in her hair, long hair, very much like Hermione, right? And she's also wearing a burgundy sash around her waist, right? And there's a tie there too and all. And look at the crest on their outfit, the Hogwarts crest. Actually, this isn't the real Hogwarts crest, okay? The actual crest. This is the uniform emblem. Do you remember it, or have you seen it before? Those who have been following me here for a long time know that I really like the illustrations from before the movies and all that, and that there's a crest with just the letter H on the chest. Right there on the robes. Exactly. And look, the robes are black. You saw that the robes are all black. They don't change color according to the house. It doesn't seem to change, right? It doesn't seem to change. All the robes are black there. Look, across all the houses. What changes is the sweater and the tie. And look, that crest with the H on it, later on in the teaser, we'll see it more clearly, and I'll talk more about it. But it's an H there, formed by trees, by two trees. That's really cool. The robes, you can see they all have the same colors, right? See, the emblem on Malfoy's robe. His robe is the same color as Hermione's robe and Harry's robe.
What changes on the robe is the very thin stripe at the edge there, which is green, and also the sweater, which is burgundy, but the stripe on the collar is green.
So, what differentiates one robe from another are these small details. From a distance, they all look like they're black, at least this type of robe they're wearing. And then, we have this wonderful view here. This view is amazing, guys. Look at this beautiful view here. The students over there, all at Hogwarts. And here, they're in the place where, the first time they entered, there's that scene with the door opening and them coming in, and Minerva waiting. Minerva was waiting exactly where these students are walking here. And now, we're seeing the scene from another angle, as if we're now on the side where Minerva was looking at them. You can see that big oak door at the end, and there are some banners hanging there, one from Slytherin. Look, on their uniforms. You can see on the hood, there are some details on the back. Inside the hood, there's a little checkered detail. And look, did you see that? Since all the robes are the same, black, all the robes are black. What really sets them apart is the tie. Look, that's cool, man. That's cool because in the books, the robes really are black. So much so that they even get confused there. When they go and use the polyjuice potion, right? Ron plays dumb, like, oh, we forgot our common room and stuff. Then the girl says, I'm from Ravenclaw, are you crazy? Because there isn't one. Another cool detail about the robes is that they also have a crest on the arm. It's not just on the chest, it's on the arm. Up here, on the shoulder, on the left side, only on the left side. It looks like it's on the right, but it's not. You notice that Hermione has a ribbon in her house color around her waist, and students from other houses have ribbons in their own colors too? Because here, we can see this girl with a yellow one, clearly from Hufflepuff. So, this is an accessory that's part of the uniform and identifies the student's house colors. And then, after that, the great Mr. Ollivander appears. He's here talking to Harry, saying that classic line he always says, right? I think we can expect great things from you because the wand that chooses Harry is the twin of Voldemort's wand, right? And here, man, I thought Ollivander's characterization was a bit too simple. I have to admit, I expected a little more from his characterization. I don't know, but let's be fair too, right? You can't see the whole outfit, but to me, it was kind of a basic black outfit, you know? It doesn't look like he's wearing a cloak or anything. Maybe he is. Maybe it goes all the way down to the floor, but it gave me the impression of being something shorter, you know? And still in this scene with Ollivander, you can see, behind the wizard, the hundreds of wand boxes there, positioned behind him, kind of out of focus, but you can tell those are wand boxes. Ollivander is wearing a ring. He hands a wand to Harry, and I don't know if it's the wand choosing Harry, or if he's just giving Harry a wand to try out, but it's probably the wand that chooses Harry. And you can see the details of the wand. It has some raised textures on the handle, and it's a dark wand, and it's really rustic. You can see that, and you'll notice throughout this teaser that the wands are more rustic. You'll notice that. Just like in the books, right? In the books, they really don't have many details described like that. And here, we have a cut to a scene where they're in a classroom. And man, this part really intrigued me, and I'll explain why. First, I thought the structure of the classroom was really cool, really nice. There's that part, that podium there, right? For the teacher to give the lesson. And then there's a projection on the wall, which for me was a reference from Prisoner of Azkaban, from Professor Snape's class, when he's substituting for Lupin. You know, when he talks about werewolves. And then, the students are there. There are candles on the tables, which makes it really cool. I thought it looked really awesome. And if you look closely at the blackboard, right near the blackboard, you'll see that it looks like there's a floating head. Actually, that's Professor Binns, the only ghost teacher at Hogwarts. He teaches history of magic, and his body is kind of transparent there, exactly because he's a ghost. And a cool detail is that when the camera changes and shows Harry really focused, Hermione is too. Because, clearly, that must have been their first history of magic class. The other students are sleeping. Seamus is next to Harry, a little behind. You can see that he's sleeping. The student behind Hermione, right behind her head, is also sleeping. The student next to Harry is kind of slumped to the side, sleeping. Everyone is sleeping in history of magic class.
And another detail that caught my attention in this scene is that, projected there on that wall, it looks like a castle.
So, it would be really cool if Professor Binns gave a lesson about the origin of Hogwarts, about the founding of Hogwarts. I know that would happen. The Chamber of Secrets maybe, right? The story of the founders, but I'm not sure. It looks like a castle there. It's definitely a castle. but maybe it's not Hogwarts. Then we cut to Harry, studying there. He's taking notes and you notice he's holding a pencil in his hand. That surprised me. I expected him to use a quill, but he's holding a pencil with Hermione in front of him. The little girl behind is watching, probably because it's Harry, the legendary Harry Potter. Now, this really beautiful scene that shows him from below shows him entering the Gryffindor common room. This here is the Gryffindor common room. And then, you see that first it shows a scene of Harry entering with his back turned, right? And shot from below, right? And then, it shows a scene from above, Harry looking up like this, and Ron is next to him and all. And then, you see that it's the Gryffindor common room. There are the chandeliers and all, right? The carpets, the red armchairs, a bunch of students there anyway, studying. This is the Gryffindor common room. It has kind of an octagonal shape, right, it seems, and it has several floors, right? That's cool because each dormitory houses the students of 1 year, right? For example, in the dormitory of Harry, Ron, Neville, Dean, and Seamus,
it's the first year dormitory. The next year, it becomes the second year dormitory, and so on.
Until they reach the 7th year and leave that dormitory, then that dormitory will become a first-year dormitory. Every year, a dormitory is vacated and then properly filled by the first-year students.
And then, after that scene, we simply have the little clique of Draco Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, and Pansy Parkinson.
Pulling out their wands. They're pulling their wands on someone. Who are they pulling their wands on? Who are they trying to threaten? I'm sure they're bothering someone. For sure. All of them pull out their wands. And, hey, remember when I talked about the uniforms? Look, the uniform, the vest there, the sweater. It's kind of a wine color, see? Isn't it? It's not green. It's not the house color. The only detail is the green line on the collar. See the crest. Look at the crest there, on Draco's chest. It's the crest with the wine and gold color of the tree there, right? It's not a crest that has Slytherin's color, nor Slytherin's animal. The crest on the robe doesn't have the house animals.
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was awesome because it really reminds me of those pre-movie illustrations that I love.
That's just my personal taste. Maybe it's okay. You might not have liked it and that's fine, no problem. And then, they pull out their wands, right? You can see a bit of the wand there, man. Honestly, I need to talk about the casting of Crabbe and Goyle. They're just perfect. Pansy Parkinson is a great match too. Draco, all of them are matching really well, but man, Crabbe and Goyle, it's crazy. The kid who plays Crabbe, he looks like Shrek's donkey. Man, just like him, look at this donkey. The face is exactly the same, man, that's crazy. Draco pulls out his wand. Draco's wand looks thinner, right? And it's a little crooked there. It's thinner. And look, Draco is wearing a ring on his finger. On his pinky, because he's powerful, he's rich, he has money, right? He's powerful. And look at this kid's face, this Locks Pratt. Man, look at this kid's smug face, so smug. Seriously, just look at this kid's face.
It's just that we're going to hate Draco and love him at the same time, you know?
Look at this. Pence's wand is a bit darker and it also seems a bit thicker, which is Draco's wand. Her hair is kind of styled, like those pompadour hairstyles, you know? But man, look at Crabbe, Goyle, look at Crabbe, and Goyle. You know what I think this is? The moment when Draco challenges Harry to a duel, in the chapter Midnight Duel, you know? I don't know if that's really it, but maybe not. Maybe it's just the way it's edited here. So, right after that, there's Harry unwrapping the Nimbus 2000. Look at the Nimbus 2000 box, how cool. Remember I said in the set visit video that I had seen this box, which is amazing? Look how beautiful the box is. Man, it says swift as snitch, like fast as a snitch, right? On the right side, there. And then there are some Quidditch hoops, and on the other side, it says precision, like precision, right? So, they're all there, Harry and Ron, all happy, opening the Nimbus 2000, man. That's so cool. I really like seeing Harry and Ron's friendship. I already love this teaser, like I loved it. And then, the cut. This cut here, this scene, already shows the moment from the game, the match, right? The players entering the Quidditch field. You can see they're entering the field, right? Is it here? First, before talking about the players, I want to talk about these fans here. You can see it's really mixed, guys, with muggle clothes and all, right? This kid, definitely, with the gray cap. That cap is definitely from a muggle sports team. This kid is muggle-born, man, anyway. And then the team is there, entering the field. That's already inside the field. You can tell by the markings there, right? The oval and the ground there. And then, I wanted to talk about, obviously, the players. We have the Weasley twins, with numbers 2 and 3, and you can see the name Weasley on their cloaks. And you didn't even need the name, right? Because they're the only 2 redheads on the team. In front, there's number 6. Number 6 there is Katia Bell. Number 5 in front is Alicia Spinett. You can see the name Spinett. The one in front of Spinett is Angelina Johnson. You can't see her number, but it's Angelina Johnson. You can see that Johnson is written on her cloak.
And in front, number 1, Wood, who is the goalkeeper and captain.
And now, on the Hufflepuff team, man, the Hufflepuff team was hard to read, because with the others, we already know the names, and since we know them, we can identify them quickly. But the Hufflepuff team in the first year isn't identified in the book. So, man, I had a really hard time making out these names, trying to read them, and some I managed to write down, some I managed to read, others there was just no way, okay? Especially because these characters really aren't named. In the first book, you can see that number 6 has a name that seems to be Harper. Number 5 is really hard to read. You just can't read it.
Number 2 seems to be the name Barry, and as for number 4, the name on the front seems to be Fleet.
So, does this one really have a Hufflepuff Quidditch player? In the third year, which is when Harry's game takes place, right? Against Hufflepuff, when he falls off the broom and all that, the goalkeeper actually is named Herbert Fleet, so that's probably number 3. Up front, the name that seems to be on the robe is Crowley. I even thought, wow, could it be Rowley? But then I said, oh no, Rowley. Rowley's whole family is from Slytherin, right guys? Rowley is Thorfinn Hall, who's the Death Eater and all, so nothing to do with it. Of course, there could be a member of his family from Hufflepuff. That's not a problem, but it looks like there's another letter before the R, so it's not Rowley. It seems to be Crowley. And the others, really, it's very hard. You can't read it. And man, I really wanted to talk about the Quidditch robes, both Gryffindors and Hufflepuffs. They're so beautiful, not just a little. They're really, really beautiful.
Man, I'm just in love with these Quidditch robes. I already want to cosplay as this, seriously. And look, man, check this out. The detail on the brooms.
From up here, you can't see much, but you can tell the brooms really look like classic witch brooms, right? And then, here we have, look, then it cuts, right? The scene shows Ron and Hermione there in the stands. They're wearing Gryffindor scarves. Did you notice that the Gryffindor scarf looks different?
It has a red stripe, a blue stripe. It looks like dark blue, and a kind of golden yellow stripe.
The stripe goes straight across the scarf, right? It cuts across it. It's perpendicular. I thought it was cool. And here we have little Harry in front. Look, entering the stadium with his Nimbus 2000 in hand. The first glimpse of the Nimbus 2000. Remember when I said I saw the Nimbus 2000 and it looked just like a witch's broom? That's what I mean. It really looks like those witch's brooms. You know, the ones you make. Those brooms they sell in hardware stores. You look at it and say, that's a witch's broom you want to grab to sweep. So it really looks like it, just more souped up, something more souped up. It has some accessories. You see some red strips holding the bristles, the handle. It's kind of crooked like this, and really polished and all.
Anyway, it's different from the Nimbus 2000, which we compare with the one from the movie, right? That one has rounded bristles and looks like it has gel on it. It's super neat.
This one has bristles like a witch's broom. And look at the Gryffindor uniform from the front. It's beautiful. Man, it has this protection here that looks like leather, you know? The button on the side, and this one has the crest of the animals from each house right there. Look, the lion right there on the chest. Awesome, awesome. And look next to Harry. Did you see the guy's broom? The broom of the Hufflepuff player? It forms an X. It simply forms an X with the bristles. It's really awesome, man. Really awesome, this broom.
Also notice the difference in the brooms, not just the shapes of Harry's Nimbus 2000, but the broom with the X-shaped bristles, the one with the X-shaped bristles from the Hufflepuff player.
But also Fred and George's broom. Here, Harry's broom is the top of the line, the Nimbus 2000, right? You can see that it has a polished handle. It's all fancy, while Fred's is all rustic, much older, more humble.
Because the broom that Fred and George use is the Clean Sweep, which is an older broom and considered inferior, very outdated and discontinued, because they're a more humble family. It's cool to see this contrast, right? It's cool to see this attention to detail right behind Harry. When he's coming in with the broom, you can see, really hidden in the corner, Snape holding the broom.
Also, because he's the one who's going to referee this game. But he's so hidden there, man, that you can barely see him. And the scene is really quick, right? But he's there, look. And then, in the next scene, we already go to the herbology class, which I think is amazing, that they already have herbology starting in first year, because they actually have it. It must be in the first season. And look at this greenhouse. It's a lot like the one in Hogwarts Legacy, though that one is much bigger. They're very similar. There's the tree in the center of the greenhouse, right there. Just like it, you know, look at the details of the plants hanging down, the metalwork, you know? It's really awesome, man. And Professor Sprout. We get the first glimpse of Professor Sprout there, and she's teaching. She's got her little table of plants there. And then, on the right side, we have what looks like Parvati, Lavender Brown, Neville, and Hermione on the right side. And on the left side,
we have there from Hufflepuff, Justin Finch-Fletchley, Hannah Abbott, and next to Hannah Abbott is Ernie Macmillan.
And then there's a girl, and after that girl, there's Susan Bones, really tiny there. Look, we know it's them because, you know, the actors who were going to play these characters had already been confirmed, and then it gets closer.
There, they have manure. You can see they have a bag of manure in front of them, which they use as fertilizer with the plants.
And then it shows Hermione, and she's looking up like she's looking at something above. I got really curious to know what she's looking at, you know? I was really curious. And next to her, Neville Longbottom, man. Look at Neville's face, guys. Look at Neville's face. Look at his face. Look at that little boy look of a kid raised by his grandma. Poor thing. I already feel sorry for Neville, man. I want to see Neville. This is a character that needs to be well explored. Man, he really does. And then, look, right next to her is Parvati. By the way, Parvati. She's looking at me right now. At the moment the camera stopped, she's looking like straight at the camera. And then, next to her, her inseparable friend, Lila Brown. And there's a big bag of poop there, which they use as fertilizer.
I really wish I knew what Hermione is looking at, man, in this next scene, with Harry and Ron running.
Did you guys notice that they're running on top of the table, in the Great Hall? This is the Great Hall, okay? They're running on top of the table. Just look at how high their feet are there.
Look, they're about to pass in front of the fireplace. See? They're at the height, at the middle of the fireplace. The floor of the fireplace starts way down there. They're halfway up. So why are they running on top of the table?
And the way they're smiling, they're up to something. They did something here. You know, it's daytime. They're not out past curfew. But something caught my attention. In the corner of the screen, here in the left corner, you can see someone who looks like they're running after them. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just being crazy. Maybe I'm seeing things, but to me, I think it could be Peeves. I don't think this corner has shown him yet. He still hasn't been revealed, but I think it could be Peeves. They're running on top of the table, and the way they're running here, it doesn't look like they're running on top of the table. It looks like they're kind of floating, running, you know, running in the air, it seems. But to me, maybe it's Peeves, or they're running away from someone here. Anyway, it could be Filch. I don't know. But would Filch really have the energy to get up on the table like that? On top of the fireplace? There's the Hogwarts crest there. Unfortunately, you can't see it clearly because the scene is fast. The frame is shaky. You can't see it clearly. But the Hogwarts crest is there. The new crest, right? Which hasn't been revealed yet. We've only had glimpses of it so far. Anyway, they haven't revealed it yet.
After the crest shot, the teaser cuts to a wonderful scene of Harry and Ron having a great time on the Hogwarts Express.
This is at the moment when they meet, when they're talking and getting to know each other, because you can tell by their clothes. And they're already surrounded by sweets there, and you can see Hedwig's cage in the corner. Besides the sweets, which you can see, you can also spot Scabbers.
Observe that pudgy, sluggish rat, Wormtail, right? Remembering it's Wormtail really makes me angry. He's lying there, with his little legs up. Look at him sleeping with his paws in the air, just relaxing here. Just look at Scabbers there in the corner. And Harry throwing candy at Ron, having a blast. Here, just one of the candies there. You can recognize two candies there, right? One of them is from a triangular box. Here, it's the every flavor bean. And the other candy there, that looks like a little pumpkin, is a pumpkin tart.
And look over there, Ron, with the checkered shirt, the Chudley Cannon shirt, and Harry having fun here. Man, I like these scenes. These scenes are my favorites from the teaser because Harry suffers a lot. So seeing these scenes of him happy, man, this is the first time he's had something to share, to enjoy with a friend.
So he plays, he jokes around, they have little battles. It's something that's happening to him for the first time, you know? That's really cool, man. It gives me a good feeling, you know?
And then, right after that, it cuts to a scene of them already at Hogwarts. And look how cool. The cloak that Harry is wearing seems to be the Hogwarts winter cloak. It's green. Do you see it?
It looks like the cloaks have the house colors. Like, there's a green cloak, and there's a black cloak with burgundy details.
It seems like all the cloaks are pretty much the same in terms of their function. This one here is the winter cloak. They're in the snow there playing. Look, Ron is there too, right? In this scene where they're having a snowball fight, it's probably the part where they're playing with Fred and George. And then, Fred and George end up enchanting the snowballs to throw at Quirrell's turban. And without knowing it, they end up hitting Voldemort's face, because that's what's under Quirrell's turban. But notice in this scene that they're not alone. Harry and Ron are there, and Hermione is probably at her parents' house since it's Christmas break, most likely. And Hannah Abbott and Ernest Macmillan are there, who in the book aren't present at this moment. But they're putting these characters there to show up more often and have more interactions because many of them only appear during the sorting ceremony, like Hannah Abbott. So, they're present here and there. A really cool detail is that if you notice, Harry is wearing a green sweater under that winter cloak, and it's exactly the sweater he gets from Mrs. Weasley for Christmas. In the book, it says he gets an emerald green sweater. So this is probably Christmas Day. He has already received the presents and they're playing there, having fun in the snow, enjoying the winter as best as they can. And he's already wearing that sweater he got from Mrs. Weasley. And on Ron's sweater, I think there's a Chudley Cannon's crest on the sleeve. Look, it seems to be a Chudley Cannon's crest embroidered on the sweater Ron is wearing. Ron is a huge fan of the Chudley Cannons, right? This scene with Hagrid made me really curious. He's making a snow angel. Why? Could it be that he was the one they were playing with? Could it be that it was Hagrid they were having a snowball fight with? Or maybe Hagrid is celebrating something here. Maybe Gryffindor's victory in Quidditch, or celebrating that it worked out. Norbert leaving, even if he's sad about it, yeah, I don't know. I think this part about Norbert might not be it because he gets really depressed. But here, could it be Hagrid who was playing with them there, throwing snowballs? I don't know.
Just remember that the scenes are put in the teaser in a way to make them look sequential, but they're not always like that.
And then, in this next scene, we have this circular staircase being shown from above, which, to me, is also a reference to Prisoner of Azkaban, and Goblet of Fire, which has a very similar staircase, which is the staircase of St. Paul's Cathedral. I don't know if this one is actually the staircase of St. Paul's Cathedral, but it's very similar. So, I think it's also a tribute that they included in the series. The next scene shows us something really cool, which is the Gryffindor Quidditch team doing a war cry. Kind of like a cheer, a greeting, right? They're in the locker room because they're about to play. I'm not sure if this is Harry's first game or the Gryffindor versus Hufflepuff match, but it's cool to see them inside the locker room. And then we see that everyone is there, right? There's Angelina Johnson, there's Harry, there's Wood, there's Alicia Spinnet, there's Katie Bell, there's Fred, there's George, the whole team, all together there. Look, but man, it's so fast. I watch it frame by frame to analyze. It's so fast that when we hit play, you can barely see it here. Then they throw their hands up there. Look, man, Gabriel and his brother, what's his name? Harland? Harland is the last name, right? Gabriel and Tristan, they're really, really good as Fred and George. Man, really good, man. I'm really happy with them as Fred and George. I'm really happy with all of them here. Look, this Quidditch team is really cool. Angelina Johnson here is really cool. Look, the actress who plays Angelina Johnson follows me on Instagram, and she replies to things. She comments on my videos, reposts. Really cool stuff, man. That's really cool nowadays, right? When the movies first came out, this kind of interaction didn't exist.
It's something nowadays. It's really, really cool, man. For this to happen, it's awesome.
And then, after that locker room scene, it shows exactly the scene that came out, the frame that was released, the photo there that was shared yesterday, right, of Harry heading toward the stadium. And then, did you notice? Just one thing. Over there in the right corner, there's Draco Malfoy and his gang. He's kind of looking at Harry and all. Kind of looking with jealousy, with envy, right? That's just how Draco is. And this next scene made me happy, simply because Harry and Ron are sitting in front of the fireplace, eating marshmallows, being happy. They're just being happy. Harry deserves happiness, my friends, because he has suffered and will suffer much, especially with the Dursleys. So,
Look at that happiness. They're sitting there, being happy, eating marshmallows. Look, Ron eating marshmallows. Look at Ron's face eating marshmallows. I can't handle it, man. I can't handle Alistair Stout. He's so cute, man. And then, does it cut to Hermione? And this scene here is cool because you can see the uniform up close. The stripe on the robe is burgundy, since it's a Gryffindor robe. Other houses likely have their own stripes too. Hermione's emblem, you can see it up close, right? This picture here shows the emblem better. You can see it's an H, right? The letter H.
It's made up of two trees.
So, the roots are on the ground and they're on the top of the crest, and they form the letter H. And I like that because it really reminds me of the pre-movie illustrations, where the capes, the uniforms, only had this crest with the letter H. Man, that really reminded me. It took me back. I was happy, And it's cool to have the tree thing. You can see there's a lot of nature and tree imagery. There's the tree there in the Great Hall. That's cool because magic is completely connected with nature. Completely connected. In fact, trees are the raw material. For the wands, the wand is a conduit for magic, right? The whole origin of wands comes from the Celts. There's the Celtic tree calendar, and actually, the woods used for Harry's, Ron's, Hermione's, and Draco's wands are made from those woods. Based on that calendar, that's how J.K. Rowling created it, She set their birth dates based on that calendar, with the woods that are associated with it, which come from this Celtic culture. That's really cool.
So, having this symbol of the tree connecting everything is really awesome.
Man, and then, this scene here, look, the man appears, Severus Snape. For the joy of some, for the sadness of others, who didn't want this actor as Severus Snape. He's in the series, guys. There's nothing we can do. He's in it and that's it, He's in it and that's final. There's nothing to be done. He's in it. And I'll say that I really liked his characterization. I thought the hair looked really good. These dreads looked really, really good. I was a bit worried that they would make his hair straight and smooth. People used to make some really tasteless memes about that. About this whole thing anyway. And I thought his characterization turned out cool. His outfit looks great. If you pay attention to this scene, you'll see that Harry is under the invisibility cloak because there's a kind of transparent layer there, which represents Harry. You can see him while he's under the cloak, hidden under the cloak, and it gives that effect. And Snape is there looking, most likely because Snape found out there was a student out of bed, something like that, because Harry used to walk around with the invisibility cloak, right? Around Hogwarts, whether it was to go to the Mirror of Erised or to the restricted section. Now, this next scene made me curious. Okay, this next scene made me curious. It's Dumbledore. Look. Dumbledore with his little hat, right? And he's holding a tuning fork in his hand. A tuning fork is an instrument you use to tune, mainly to tune other instruments. Because it emits a perfect note, which is the A at 440 Hertz considered the purest note there is. And then, this tuning fork, you can use it for some other things too, besides music, right? You don't have to use it just for tuning, and I don't know what Dumbledore is doing with it in his hand. So I also thought of two things. Could it be because of Fluffy? He sleeps when there's music and everything. But then, from the environment here, it seems to me, it reminds me maybe, right? It makes me think of, not reminds me, because I haven't seen it, but it makes me think of Gringotts. So, could it be that he's investigating here? The theft, the attempted theft of the Philosopher's Stone? Because we know that's going to happen. We know that's going to occur, right? In the series. And look at the clothes he's wearing. He's wearing the exact same clothes as when he visits the Flamels. As when he's there on the beach. It's the same clothes. It's that blue cloak with some kind of streak details. It's the same outfit. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's him in the Gringotts vault here, investigating the attempted theft of the Philosopher's Stone. Or maybe he's at Nicholas Flamel's house. I don't know. I don't know if this is intentional, if it's really a reference or a tribute. But Dumbledore is wearing a hat in this scene, which kind of resembles Jude Law's hat, like Dumbledore in Fantastic Beasts. Could it be an intentional reference? An intentional tribute, or is it just a coincidence? Besides that, the headmaster is also wearing his famous half-moon glasses. The trio walks down a Hogwarts corridor with their backs turned. There's really not much to say about it. And then there's this wonderful scene on the Express where Hermione arrives, right? And Ron is holding his wand because he's trying to cast the spell to turn Scabbers yellow.
Anyway, and here you can see some more details as well.
That pink and green box next to Harry is a chocolate frog box. Look, it's the chocolate frog box from the series. Hermione arrives already dressed, right? Over there and all. And then we have a cut, which is actually a different scene, a different moment. Notice that it's another moment, because when Hermione sits next to Ron, he's not wearing the plaid shirt, just the Chudley shirt. He's next to Harry, but when the scene cuts, he's wearing the plaid shirt, asking, "Are you really Harry Potter?" So these are scenes that are put together in a way to make them look sequential, but they're not actually sequential. And then, when he asks if he's really Harry Potter, he has a smudge on his nose here, which means he just sat down in the Hogwarts Express carriage, and we're going to find out what that smudge on Ron's nose is. Finally, the series is going to explain what this is. Could it be soot from Floo powder, since they traveled by Floo powder to get to platform 9 3/4? What could it be? Could it be some prank by Fred and George? What happened to Ron's dirty nose? And then, you see that when he asks, "Are you really Harry Potter?" It cuts to Hermione. Looking at it like this, Hermione isn't actually there at that moment. They're different scenes. This part where Hermione looks like that, I think she's speaking in a different moment, like when she talks. That doesn't look like a spell or anything. When Ron tries to cast the spell to turn the rat yellow, then here, Harry is confirming. Yeah, he confirms. Yeah, it's him, man. And here, Alistair Stout won me over. He really won me over. When Harry confirms that he is Harry Potter, he does it with a bang here, like the lightning bolt hitting Harry's forehead. Right, man. Wonderful. Wonderful. And his little Chudley Cannon shirt there, under the plaid shirt, right? Incredible. By the way, I want that Chudley Cannon shirt to go on sale, please. Then the teaser ends, and the new Harry Potter logo comes in.
It has a certain difference from the classic logo. It's very subtle, very slight.
They didn't take any risks. They kept the logo very similar to the one that's already well known, but there were some changes. The tip of the letter H, there, it splits and looks like a branch or a lightning bolt too, instead of looking like what used to be a hook. In the old one, the Y also changes. The stroke of the Y there, the one on the T from Harry Potter and the cut on the T. It's a wand. That changed too. It's a wand. It used to be separated here.
I know this classic logo by heart because I drew it many times in my notebook. So there was this slight change. There it is. HBO original, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So the season will really be called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, just like the book is called.
And the big surprise, right? Christmas 2026. The series will come out at Christmas 2026 HBO Max logo. And the teaser is over, man. You saw my reaction. I was simply over the moon with this teaser, simply over the moon.
And then, besides the teaser, some photos were also released. 13 photos came out. And I want to talk a little about them here too, because there's a bit to say about each one of them.
I'll start with the Hogwarts Express arriving at Hogsmeade Station. Our first look at the station, right? Hagrid appears in the teaser, but this photo is much higher quality. There's Hagrid there, waiting for the students, holding his little lantern. And this image, man, to me, it's absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous, really beautiful. I just wanted to say that it's truly stunning. It's Hogsmeade, the first glimpse there anyway. It's wonderful. It doesn't have any hidden details, no secrets, not now. The second image is of Ron, and I really believe this is Ron, at home. He's at the Burrow, judging by the environment he's in. It doesn't look like anywhere in Hogwarts. The table in front of him has some breakfast items on it. I really think it's him at home, maybe before going to Hogwarts, about to leave for Hogwarts, right? Or maybe receiving the letter, something like that. Because if we're going to have Hermione receiving the letter, we can probably have Ron too. And the actress who plays Molly gave an interview saying that her favorite part was filming when she entered the set of the Weasley family's house.
If it's already there, it's likely because there's a scene, you know?
The third photo shows the trio walking down this corridor. This corridor is from, those leaked set photos that showed a corridor with a staircase. There's a tree in front, not on the side. On the side there's a tree. It's not the Whomping Willow being set up there. It's actually a tree on the side, a tree with dry branches and all. This corridor with a blue background that leaked from the set, that's the corridor they're in this photo. And look, this photo is really cool, right? The trio is walking there, and when you look at the ceiling, there are some arches there, right? If you zoom in, you'll see that there are golden snidgets sculpted into those arches.
It's a magical bird that was almost extinct. It was used in Quidditch games before the golden snitch was introduced, right? The snitch was introduced because the use of the golden snidget was banned. A head of the Wizards Council, Elfrida Clegg, banned it at the time because they were almost extinct. And there, those little birds are sculpted in high relief, the golden snidget. I thought that detail was brilliant, man. Really cool.
Now, this image here of Dudley and his friends at the Muggle school shows them looking kind of off into the distance, and they're definitely looking at Harry.
I think this moment is when Harry, without meaning to, somehow ends up trying to escape and ends up on top of the chimney. At school, I'm almost sure it's this moment. This other image shows Hermione. She's in a classroom, and behind her, you can see Ron and Harry. So, they weren't friends yet at that point, you know? They hadn't really developed a friendship. They only really become friends after the troll incident in the bathroom.
And here, she's all happy, you see. I think she's in transfiguration class, where she's the only one who manages to transform, or get really close to transforming, the matchstick into a needle.
I believe this is the transfiguration class because of the animal pictures in the background, right?
It seems to be about transfiguration, about animals anyway. I think this is the transfiguration class. And she's all happy, exactly because she managed to do it. And she's sitting right at the front. It's one of the first classes. In this other image, we have none other than Walter and Petunia, looking like the big muggles they are, reading the Hogwarts letter that was sent to Harry for the first time.
Their faces are priceless. Look at Walter's face. Look at Petunia's face. I'm really looking forward to seeing them go crazy, trying to escape from these letters in this series, going to a hotel, taking the little boat to go to the hut, running away, Walter driving like crazy from one place to another. I really want to see this happening. The next image shows Harry pushing the cart, right? He's got Hedwig's cage there. You can see a little bit of Hedwig. And this photo is of him.
On the platform, he sees platform 9 3/4 and the locomotive for the first time.
He has a surprised look on his face, and you can tell it's the platform, right? Because there's that mosaic in the background that we saw in the scene with Mrs. Weasley. I might sound a bit smug saying I saw it in person during my set visit, but I don't want to come off that way. I want to stay humble, you know? But, well, it's not every day you get to go on a set visit for the series anyway. But that's the little part of the platform. It's the scene where he goes in there, seeing the Express for the first time. And the next photo shows Harry too, for the first time, entering Diagon Alley. It's the first time he sees Diagon Alley.
He has this amazed look on his face, and I'll say right away that I know this is Diagon Alley, because the wall looks exactly the same. Behind the photo I took too, going in there, amazed. I mean, that the HBO team took of me entering Diagon Alley during the set visit. And man, it's really the same environment. And this photo of Harry there is really beautiful. Minerva McGonagall also has this image of her, looking very classy there.
There's not much to say about this photo. She's in a Hogwarts setting, somewhere in Hogwarts, holding a book and a quill in her hand, I guess.
Maybe it's from a moment when she's going to talk to Harry, call Harry over.
After Harry ends up grabbing Neville's Remembrall while he was in flying class.
Anyway, I think it could be that moment. And now, this image of Dumbledore, which is amazing by the way. I believe it could be from two specific moments.
You can see that it's nighttime. First, let me give you some context. You see that it's nighttime, and the castle is empty, because that part of the castle is usually crowded. We've already seen this moment in the teaser. We've seen two moments from this part of the castle. One where it was full of people, and now it's empty, so it's nighttime. The students can't be out of bed. That's a fact in this image. What I think it could be, this might be in 1981 when he finds out about the death of the Potters. He's there, like, leaving the castle to go over to Rodolfo de Neros. It could be that. Or it could also be when he's tricked and called to the Ministry of Magic under a false pretext to get him away from Hogwarts, and the villain tries to get to the Philosopher's Stone.
And then it shows him leaving there, maybe meeting up with Hermione.
When he's coming back, right? When he's coming back to go to Harry, there's a part where Dumbledore says, "Oh, I ran into Hermione on the way and came running here." Anyway, I think it could be either of those two options. Draco Malfoy, in this picture here, Draco is definitely in potions class because, well, there's the cauldron there, and there's also the book, which looks like the standard year 1 potions book.
You can tell because even though the book cover is out of focus, you can see that it looks like there are several test tubes on the book. And man, test tubes are really all about potions, right? So there's the cauldron, and it looks like the moment when Snape is humiliating Harry in class. You know, in the first lesson.
And last but not least, Severus Snape. Man, that picture of Snape in the snow, right? For sure. Absolutely for sure. It's about the moment after he referees the Quidditch match, and he ends up cornering Quirrell there, and Harry ends up witnessing that conversation, and then he gets even more suspicious of Snape, right? When Snape scares Quirrell, little does Harry know that Snape was following Dumbledore's orders, right? Anyway, all this context, I think this image is from that scene, because there's snow. It's after the Quidditch match when there's snow, right? When Harry is flying there, he's about to come back, and then he takes a little flight with the Nimbus, and he stops to listen to this.
So I think it's after Snape referees the match. And what also tells me this are the clothes he's wearing.
It looks like some robes, but at the same time, it looks kind of like leather, kind of sporty. I don't know. Man, there's a zipper there and everything, you know? A zipper is unusual for wizards. It's the first time I've seen it. The first time I've seen a wizard wearing a big zipper jacket like that. Right. Just like Snape is wearing. But then there's this image of him already in character. There's him in the teaser. There's him in this image here, in this photo that was revealed today. These photos came out in Variety. Alright, so that's it. Whew.
It's 1:36 in the morning. The teaser came out really late, at 4 in the afternoon, man. If it had come out in the morning, I would have been able to get things done much faster, you know. But then, like, with a lot more time to spare, right? The teaser came out at 4 in the afternoon, and then do the reaction, and then do the analysis.
The analysis takes a lot of time to script. A lot of time. Especially because I like to do a thorough analysis, you know? Frame by frame, watching everything, commenting on everything I think is relevant. But that's it. Let me know. If you saw something I missed, feel free to tell me.
If you liked the teaser, comment below what you were expecting to be different, what you thought was really cool, and what you thought wasn't that great. Feel free. Just remember to be respectful. You have every right to talk about things you don't like.
You just don't have the right to be a jerk, disrespect people, or commit a crime, right? Because then, that's when things get serious, and that's not cool. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Bring on more content about the series. Harry Potter, I'm so excited. Have you realized Christmas is just 9 months away? At Christmas, I'm not going to invite anyone. My family, please forgive me. Mom, sorry, I'm not going to invite anyone. I'm going to watch Harry Potter at Christmas. Unless you all come and everyone watches together. It's true. My plan is for everyone to come. Everyone will watch Harry Potter at Christmas. You can come. That's it. Come on, wizard family. Thank you for watching another episode of Calderon Furado. Really. Thank you very much.
The React video has almost 150,000 views. I think it's already over 150,000 views. Just like that. Weird, really cool. Thanks for all the comments on the last videos. And the set visit video. I saw there were a lot of comments. More than 1,000. I gave some a heart and replied to some, but there are so many. I'm busy covering the series here and haven't read the rest yet. When I have time, I'll read them all. Alright,
thank you for the love and for following Calderon Furado. The magic is more alive than ever. Let's go wild together and enjoy everything that's coming.
And at Christmas, we have Harry Potter to watch. Man, I'm on cloud 9. I'm on cloud 9.